Welcome to today's episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. My name is Kathy Baldwin. I'm your host, and I am so excited. I know I say it all the time, but I really am excited to introduce you to Amy Sanders. Amy, welcome to Unlearn the Crap. As you know, Unlearn the Crap is about the physical excrement that our body has, how it uses our lymphatic system and our drainage system and our fascia and our digestive system to remove that which is unwanted and that will create inflammation and disease. That we must get rid of that which we do not need and does not serve us. But it's also the conditioned responses and automatic programming that affects our beliefs and our thoughts and our perspective and our results that we get in our world. Amy, you're an amazing woman. What crap did you need to unlearn for you to level up and serve the way you do?
I think that the biggest crap that I have had to unlearn is the people pleasing that I was conditioned to have just as like a young child. And because I was so conditioned, my whole life went down like this rocky road for years and years and years until I did start to speak up and look at what was going on. You know, I had to make the changes. And so I think the biggest one was that, but there's also been other ones like money beliefs and stuff like that have also been part of my journey as I've had to unlearn and decide what I want to believe to be true. And so, yeah, that's the big one. And we can dive in. I'll take it wherever you want to go.
Okay, well, we're going to go in a few different directions on that. But first, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience, telling them who you are and how you serve now that you've leveled up?
Yes. So who I am, I actually answer this differently the most. I like to say that I am a goddess. I have roles that I play. I have a lot of roles that I play, but ultimately I'm a goddess. And so are you. So the roles that I play, I am a female entrepreneur. I have been for a long time, and that's actually who I serve. I serve a lot of female entrepreneurs, teaching them how to get rid of, whether it's the crap, the limiting beliefs, whatever, but I also mix it with strategy. So I help you come into alignment so that when you're in alignment, things flow, things are easier. It doesn't have to feel hard. And as you step deeper into your femininity, it gets even better. So I essentially teach women entrepreneurs how to make money, but in order to make good money and all the things, you do have to let go of other things that a lot of times that we put ourselves on. I'm also a mom. I'm a stepmom. I'm a wife. I've got 7 kids. So I do wear a lot of different hats, but I like to call myself a goddess.
I love that. One of the things that I talk about in my Unlearn the Crap community is that when someone joins the community, I always say, I want you to introduce yourself and tell us where your zone of genius is. Own it, grab it, and celebrate it, because we've been taught to play small and don't sing our praises and don't brag and all the rest of that. No, we need to brag. Like, I love the way you said I'm a goddess. I love that.
Yeah.
And the other part of what I do when I'm introducing people in my community is to say, these are my challenges. This is the crap that I need help with. Mm-hmm. So let's bring it back to, where did you get the idea that you needed to please people? Where did that belief come from?
It came from, essentially it really came from my parents. So my parents, I like to say that they were born into nightmare type families. Literally, like, their lives were nightmares. And when they got married to each other, they really didn't take care of any of their own stuff. And so they got married essentially in like a toxic type of relationship. And from there, they had 7 kids. And they joined the Mormon religion, but so they're both converts. And so they went from one extreme to the other. They were both, in such crazy backgrounds that I think they came to something that's very conservative and strict and all of those things. But within the religion, it's also very patriotic. No, the man word. It's not coming out.
Patriarchy.
Yes, that's the one. I got patriotic on my mind. That's not the right word. Anyway, yeah. So it's very male dominating, which I don't mean that bad. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't believe she's saying that. I'm just saying that within my family system, with the way that my family took their responsibilities within the church and within the roles that they had, I was taught from an extremely young age to please, and please no matter what, especially if they're men. If they're men, you say yes. You do not ever say no. And also you can't ask for anything. Don't ask for anything. And if you do, you get in trouble. And so I was taught to just really not speak up. And when I did, I really did get in trouble. And so it's like, okay, don't ruffle the feathers. Don't ask for what I want. And then say yes. And I like to I know that so many women are people pleasers. I call myself a recovering people pleaser, but I like to tell people, like, this is how extreme it was when I was marrying, or I was dating a guy, and I had been dating him for 3 weeks. I was dating a guy and I had been dating him, and he proposed. And when he proposed, I freaked out. I was like, what? Like, we've literally been dating for 3 weeks. We had known each other before, but we were not romantic. There wasn't anything really there. And all of a sudden he pours his heart out to me. I am just like blown away. I was like, what is happening? And the next thing you know, he's proposing, and I'm scared out of my mind. My body is alarming. I love the work that you're doing, because it's so important, right? Our body keeps score. And so my heart is racing. My gut is in total knots. I'm chills head to toe. And it's not because I'm so excited. It's because I know with every fiber of my being, my body is saying, Amy, don't do this. Don't do this. You cannot agree to this. But I was so scared because I'm not used to saying no. And I didn't want him to feel bad. So I don't want someone to feel bad. So I agreed to marry them. Are you kidding me? Like, that is how good at self-betrayal I was. And that is how big of a people pleaser I was. And when he proposed, I was freaking out. I left him on his knee, and he's just sitting there in the snow. It was actually like a blizzard at the time, which I'm like, why are you proposing to me outside in a blizzard? That's also weird. But anyway, as he's on the knee, I don't dare say anything. And the only thing I can think of is, well, did you ask my dad? Because I'm thinking, surely they don't even know each other. Surely he hasn't asked my dad. And he's like, oh yeah. When he said, if it's okay with you, it's okay with him. I was like, oh, okay, sure. That was the proposal. And I like to tell that story just because it shows you how good I was at self-betraying, and how I just agreed. I agreed to things so that other people would feel okay at the expense of myself. And it was throughout my whole life. I was scared to, I had a beautiful voice. I was scared to even try out for choir, because what if they told me no? So I wouldn't do it. I mean, it was just I was so scared to hear the word no, because I heard the word no so often in my house that I just would avoid it any chance I could. And heaven forbid if I told someone no, that's not going to happen. And so, yeah, from there, it led me into a really unhealthy relationship with him. We ended up getting married, and within the religion, you do not divorce. It's something that's gotten better over time. But at the time, it's something you do not do. And if you do, it's like you're wearing the scarlet letter. I had 3 kids in that marriage. And again, once you have kids, you are in, you've made these commitments, these commandments, you do not deviate. And so having to walk away from that and choose something for myself was so hard, because it was everything I'd been conditioned and my culture had trained me not to do. And so all of that led to...
How did you do that? How did you come to the place that said no more? Where was the line in the sand for you?
Yeah, I love that question, because it was really hard, meaning that when I married him, before I married him, I knew that I shouldn't. And I was even scared throughout my entire engagement. Then I marry him and I realize this is a mistake. But now I've, made this commitment to him and a commandment to God. And so heaven forbid, we don't deviate. So as I was married, I remember by year 7, I just could not go on for one more minute. I was like, I cannot do this for one more minute. And when you look at all of the reasons to leave a marriage, and I'm saying all of the reasons to leave a marriage, check the boxes. They all were happening. And so I would be like, well, what, maybe if I forgive him for this, or maybe, it's like, I would always like try and make deals with like, well, God wants, I was so just full of like fluster and hard to make a decision. But what I started doing, to answer your question long-windedly, was little by little, things started to unravel to where I started to like notice things. I mean, there was a lot going on that most women would have like left a long time ago, but I didn't, because 1, the religion, and 2, the judgment, 3, I was trained to never say no and to totally self-betray and just stick it out no matter what. And so there was like all of these beliefs and conditionings that I had, that I was working against. And so finally I started to ask myself, well, what do you want? And I couldn't answer it. But I knew that when I looked in the mirror, I didn't know who I was. And I also knew, and this is probably the bigger reason actually, is I knew that looking at my little kids, I did not want for 1 minute, gosh, I still get emotional about this. I did not want for 1 minute for my daughter to think that what that relationship looked like was healthy. And heaven forbid if my boys were now going to treat women like that. And so by looking at the kids, which I'm grateful that I had that, like looking at them and then looking at me and not recognizing myself in the mirror, I was like, there is a massive disconnect from what I thought I was going to have in my life as a child versus what my life looks like now. And I don't want my kids to think for 1 minute that this is okay, that this is acceptable. And so that's when I was like, well, what do I want? And it was really little things in the beginning. It was like, what do you want for dinner? Oh, wait, I can actually decide what to cook for dinner. I don't have to just do what everyone else wants for dinner. Okay. Like, wait, I can go on a bike ride by myself without having to pull the kids in like a cart behind me. I can just go and get a babysitter. Like there was just all these.
You were doing this at the end of your marriage? You were starting to assert your independence?
Yes. Yeah. It was those little things.
How did that go over? But actually, let me back up a bit because I want to know, you said you come from a family of 7.
Yeah.
What was the breakout of the sexes in your family?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question. There were 5 girls and there were 2 boys. And the girls had it way harder than the boys.
In what way?
Meaning that...
Can you show us the differences on how because the whole thing about Unlearn the Crap is that we get a belief and our brains are wired to be right and to find proof. And so if we have a belief from a very young age that there's something wrong with us or we're not equal or whatever, we're going to go proof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did the proof show up for you?
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. The first thing that comes to mind, there's a lot of little proofs. So we had to look a certain way, meaning that if my mom did not like if I was starting to gain any kind of weight, she would make comments on it. And so that led to a lot of eating disorders within the girls in my family. I like to say that I never had an eating disorder, but I was one that worked out for 8 hours a day. So guess what? That was an exercise-induced eating disorder, but I would still eat the food. And so I was like, oh no, I'm not like my sisters. Guess what? I actually was. But at the time, that's what I would say, right? So when it came to looking a certain way, we had to look a certain way. The boys did not have that. The parents didn't expect that of them. So it's just like the boys could be. We had an extremely long list of chores. And when I say chores, I mean like I would get home from school and it is like an entire page long of chores with my name at the top. There's not the same list for either of the boys, but for the girls, there are. Our house looked incredibly perfect at all times, but inside the home, it did not look that way. If we disobeyed, then we would, I mean, whatever that means, we would get grounded. Early on, there were beatings. I hate to say that. It's true though. But again, my parents came from the craziest backgrounds ever. I could do a whole podcast episode just on being a daughter of what they experienced, you know? So like, did they come far from where they were? Sure. But did we end up in a very unhealthy environment? Yes. And so another thing with the girls versus the boys is my parents made us do, they sound like they're awful. I promise they're not the worst, but we had a lot of man labor, meaning that we would put in our own sprinkler systems. We would dig the trenches by hand. I had like a pickaxe that I'm like nailing into the ground, and I'm 10 years old. I'm pushing wheelbarrows at 10 years old. So I'm saying like things that a lot of people don't experience as girls, like we were doing all of those things, and we wouldn't really get, it's like our love was they withheld their love to where it was conditional. Like, if you do all of these things, I might maybe smile at you, but I'm not going to give you a compliment. So even still, my parents really struggled to give us, especially the girls, any kind of compliment. A lot of passive aggressive behavior. As far as like, okay. I'm like, how much do I say on this podcast? Like they'll make it about them. And so you're always
okay,
feel okay.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? Yeah, because one of the things that you were saying was, I could see you were struggling with the guilt of your love and respect of your parents, not wanting to say anything bad about them, because what happens at home stays at home. And obviously, I only know that because I've been there and done that. Right. But the other part is that your story is your story. Your experience was your experience. And while everyone is always doing the very best they can, we still come with traumas, and we come with ancestral learnings, and it doesn't have a judgment against us that there's something right or wrong about us. But what it does say is that we can be critical in our thinking about what it is that we want for right or wrong. And own that, yes, we live in a world of polarity. We live where there is dissidence, there is disconnection from the love and respect we have for our family. Like my parents were my heroes, but I could list a whole pile of things they did and said that caused me pain and created crap in my own brain. So because you were talking about that, I wanted to capture that so everyone understands you're not betraying your parents. You're not betraying family by owning your own experience.
Yeah, it is hard to say because I'm in my family. Okay, so even still, which I'm excited, we're going to talk about more stuff that I've done in my life, right? But even still, to this day, I am the only one that is speaking up. And that I'm proud that I'm speaking up. I'm proud of myself and for like the fact that I am breaking a lot of patterns that my family hasn't broke. But to this day, my sisters are still scared to talk to my parents about things that they're frustrated about. My sisters are still scared that they need to please them no matter what. The boys don't really have that. It's just the girls. And we also had a suicide in our family. Like one of my sisters didn't end up making it because I think of just some of the unhealthy things that were going on within our family, which once that happened, the family was really fractured. You know, like a suicide. She was 14 years old.
How old was she when she took her life?
She was 14 years old. Very young. Very young.
How old were you?
I was 10.
Oh my God. So your older sister.
She was my idol. And yep, she was my idol. She was beautiful. She was the one that I looked up to. She was the one that I just like wanted to follow in her footsteps. And then one day she's gone. And so like, just, yeah, our family really went through so many hard things, and playing it out, what that ended up looking like as our lives unfolded, my sisters and I, is all of us ended up getting into unhealthy relationships because we allowed certain behaviors and relationships into our life because of what we had allowed as like just what we were raised in, right? And so we end up staying the same course. And that's when like in my life, I was just like, what is happening? This is not what I dreamed of. This is not anywhere I thought that I would be. And the gap between like looking at me and my relationship, my husband would always tell me, he's like, stop judging us against those people, or stop talking about that couple over there. And I remember thinking, I'm not trying to judge, but I just see that this is so different. Like I can't not see how different their relationship than ours. But actually, as I look around, all of my friends' relationships look a lot better than ours, And so I'm doing all the things, and there's just like that gap that just keeps getting bigger. And once I'm seeing it, like I can't not see it. And then the kids, I'm just like, okay, what do I believe to be true? Like if I believe that God loves me, do I believe that he would want me to be in this relationship forever and not be happy forever? I don't believe that he would want that for me. And so I really had to like peel it apart and look at it from that perspective and be like, yes, this is not what is in alignment with anything that I am. And for sure, I don't want my kids repeating this pattern. And technically, I'm repeating the pattern of my family if I stay. I have to do something different.
Yes, that is how we break the traumas. That's how we break the cycles and the patterns that have gone on for ancestral generations. I got to say that I just released my second book called How I Unlearned My Crap. And I'll tell you, it was terrifying because it is my story of what I went through. And my parents have passed. They passed early, but there's still a lot of people in there that I'm thinking to myself, I hope they don't read the book. So I know what you're talking about because I knew the story needed to come out. I knew I needed to say it for my own healing. I needed to let this out. I needed to share the traumas. I needed to share my learnings. But I didn't want to betray anybody because they all had their own journeys. But the vulnerability and the intimacy of sharing these stories is part of the crap that we have, that there was something wrong with those people, or that I got to the point where I'm saying I'm not carrying secrets anymore. Is that how you felt? Is that how you feel that you're finally able to?
That is, absolutely. In fact, this last year, I mean, it's been evolving, over the last number of years, but this last year I had some really like frank talks with my parents, and again, it was because of how they were showing up when they came into my home. And I am providing, we're having this pool party and it's amazing. And there's all these people here, and my mom starts treating me really poorly. And I like wouldn't stand for it. But you know what? I used to always stand for it. I used to just like roll over and let it be okay. And I didn't let it be okay. And I got on her multiple times. And then the next time I saw her, and the thing is, though, is my mom's pretty good at like.
Can I ask, how did she respond? When you stood up for yourself and you were creating a line and saying, no, I know I let this happen before, but now you're creating boundaries. Because when we change our boundaries, it changes the dynamics of everyone around us, and not everybody likes it.
Oh, no, for sure. I've definitely lost relationships. So I'll answer that in 1 second. But what I do want to say is this. I have absolutely lost relationships as I've stepped deeper into my power. And some of the relationships actually were really close to me. However, once they realized they wanted me in their life, they came back honoring my boundaries, and we now have better relationships. So the relationships that actually mattered, it was amazing. The relationships that have mattered in my life that I've had to like, distance for a little while, they came back. And then the other relationships that were never going to serve me, they're gone. It feels so much better. So with my mom, she didn't like it. And she was caught off guard because she's like, wait, what? And I
Yeah, the
actually
rules are changing.
yeah, I'm actually going to say exactly what happened. Okay. Because to give people context of what happened. And
Please,
so
please.
what we were having, and it's kind of random, but I think it'll serve a purpose. So we were having a pool party. It was the 4th of July. And we always have, our house fits a lot of people. The backyard's really big. It's beautiful. So we have all of the family over. And we even had friends visiting from Canada, by the way. And they were celebrating our American holiday with us. And, my sister's in-laws were also there. It was like a lot of people, probably 40 plus people. And we had told them, we'd said, okay, so we're going to the parade. We're doing all these things beforehand. And we say, okay, make sure you eat before because we're going to swim and then we'll have a barbecue for dinner. What my mom likes to do is just have it be her way. And we just adapt, whatever that is. And so we had sent out reminders. We had sent out texts. We had done all of the work so that everyone knows that they're coming because they're coming at like 1 o'clock. So eat lunch, then come swim, then we'll have the barbecue. Well, my parents had been on a trip. We hadn't seen them in 6 weeks. They show up in my house. And when I say my house, they barge in. They don't say, hey, how are you? What my mom says is, people are hungry outside. Where's the food? How come it's not done? That's how she entered my home.
Yeah.
And I looked at my mom and I said, first of all, hi, Mom. How are you? It's good to see you. How was your trip? And how about you go outside and come back in with a better attitude? And I'll remind you that we are not eating right now, which is why the food's not ready, because we're eating it in a couple hours after people are done with swimming. And she was speechless.
Whoa.
I mean, I just was like, read your texts. Anyway, so that's how I came across. People can think it's harsh or whatever, but really.
No. Can you mind?
No.
How did you gather the courage in that moment to stand up for yourself? Because you said always your mother would rule. I mean, I called my mother Queen Bee because what she said went, I hear you. I get it. What were you feeling in that moment that made you say, no, not today?
Yeah, really. So I've done a lot of growing over the years. So in that moment, I just felt power, to be honest. I was like, my mom might be my mom, but she doesn't get to mistreat me in my own home in front of other people. This is not acceptable. And also my energy, I really am big on protecting my energy so that I'm always vibing the highest that I can. And so if they are going to come into my home now, I am not going to stand to let someone take down my energy in my own home. I will not do it. And so it has taken work over time. The first time I stood up to her was a lot scarier. I was shaking and, shaking and wondering how it was going to go. But I'm also looking at myself now, like I am a grown adult with my own house. I get to be how I want to in my own home. And also even in her home, I'll respect her boundaries, but I'm not going to let someone mistreat me or teach me or treat me like I am like a 10-year-old anymore, because I'm not. And I also will treat you with respect and I will be happy to see you. So it's not like I'm asking them to do something that I'm not going to do myself. But when I stand in that place, I feel so much more like, obviously I feel like the goddess that I am, but it also just, the energy is cleaner. Everything about it is cleaner because now I'm not mad at her. I'm not resenting her. I gave her the opportunity to come back in. And because she said that, she did stop in her tracks and she's like, oh. And she just paused. Now, did she say, Amy, I'm so sorry? No, she did not do that. But did she start rethinking about how she was going to show up? Sure. And to be honest, later, the next time she came into my house, she did the exact same thing. And she asked me why I hadn't invited her to something. I go, Mom, I have not invited you because when you come and you come with that type of energy, it's not fun for me or anyone that's in the room. So if you want to be invited, show up in a better space. We want to have you if you're happy to be here. But if you're going to come complaining and make me feel bad for inviting, like make me feel like I have to take care of your emotions, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so
wow.
Relationship.
Wow. How many women are listening to what you're saying? I grew up in a home where everybody smoked. And at 16, I became a smoker. But my mother told me I wasn't allowed to smoke around her, so I might as well quit. Even when I became a mother at 21, she said, you're not allowed to smoke anywhere around me. 21 years old. I got married at 32. I was still sneaking and hiding at my own wedding until I quit smoking. I never, ever could break that what she says goes. And there are those boundaries of what we are taught, that crap that we must follow the rules.
It doesn't serve us, though. If it's coming from a clean place, if it's coming from a place of love, if it's coming from a place of respect, sure. But when it's coming from a place of fear or coming from a place yeah, like that's when it's not okay. And it's like, even with my own children, and I think that's the other thing, you learn so much as you become a mom, right? And of course I have my imperfections. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I look at the relationship that I have with my kids. I want to trade it for the world. And they come to me about everything, and they're not scared to talk to me about whatever. It's like, we can talk about these things and I can help them through these things. And I didn't have that. I was so scared as a kid to like even tell them about like my friends. It's like they were not involved. And so I'm like, I don't want that for my children. And now that I am an adult, even though I'm your child, I don't have to take that kind of behavior. But because I've changed, yes, of course, the relationships change. And I think things are still evolving with my parents, but they also know that I won't stand for it. So that's changing. My mom actually did say the last time where I'm like, if you want to be invited, then have a good attitude when you come. And because what they'll do is they'll huff and puff and like be watching their watch. And then I'm like, oh no, they're not happy. And I'm trying to make them happy. I don't do that anymore. So really I'm like, they can huff and puff and watch the watch. And they also can leave out the door, or they can like connect with all of us and have a good time. But I'm not going to change what I'm doing in the moment to make sure that they feel okay. Like that's on them.
Amy, you have just shown everyone who is listening and watching what it is like when we stop taking responsibility for somebody else's behavior, their reaction, and we stand in honor of ourselves and our own boundaries. We don't have to be mean. We don't have to be cruel or pushy or angry. We can just do it from a place of strength. That was such a beautiful example. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Like, let's get the real example so people can just see what this looks like instead of, we kind of did this or, tiptoe around it. So yeah. It feels good. And there's no resentment on my side of like, oh, she came like this. It's like, I just told her. And I told her what I would like to have differently. And to be honest, she's been missing our relationship. And I think that my dad's not ready to yet, and that's okay. But I think my mom really is valuing just how things are changing and that what I am doing, especially what I'm doing in the world and with other women. It's my mom is seeing me continually rise into my power. And I do think she is proud of me because of that. And I'm proud of me because.
Tell us more about that, because you have become a successful entrepreneur on your own. You are a strong, powerful woman, and you are coming into the world and helping and guiding and teaching other women how to be successful. So from going from being the dutiful little girl who does as she's told, the good girl syndrome, to now being a pillar of power. I don't like the word strong, because strong means that we can withstand anything and we shouldn't have to. When we're powerful, we own it, right? What is it like for your mother to see you as one of these pioneers helping women level up to the next best version of themselves?
Yeah, I actually can't answer what it's like for her because I'm not exactly sure. I know that she is proud because she has said that, which she does not compliment me much, by the way. She'll compliment everyone else around us, but never her own children. But she has told me that she's proud, and she has told me. So as I went through my divorce, I didn't rake my ex-husband through the coals. There was a lot of things that I look back on how I showed up in that situation. And I am proud of that. That's one thing I want to tell anyone that's listening is be proud of how you show up in every situation, because then you always feel good. And so with the way I handled my ex-husband and our divorce and how ugly it got and whatever, like I didn't rake him through the coals. There's a lot of things that I guess kept closer to the sleeve just because I just didn't think the whole world needs to know. Right. But my mom has come to me multiple times now that one of my sisters has also gone through a divorce. And she's like, it's amazing to see how strong of a person you are and how you really have handled certain situations so beautifully. And again, for someone that doesn't compliment much, that goes so far. Like if she says something like that, you're like, wow. And so I think as she has, and then everything I post online, she asks me about my clients. So she'll get curious and I'll tell her and she'll just be like, oh, wow. Like, because no one else, like I've said, my family, no one else is really speaking up. No one else is sharing the story and no one else is like doing what I'm doing. And that's okay. But I think it just shows me like rising up even higher in my mom's eyes. But again, you'd have to ask her directly to get her direct feedback.
Well, you definitely know by how she's interacting with you, by the things that she's saying, and the way the dynamics are changing between the two of you. Because you know she came into this world with her own crap, and her parents came with their crap. And so when we're always just perpetuating the cycle and the patterns that we've been taught, and someone, which is what I believe we are in a time and a place right here, right now, where women especially are being called to say, this ends here.
Yes. Mic drop. Yes. We have to speak up. And as we speak up, you and me on this podcast and everyone else, that's doing the work, as we speak up, we give other women power to speak up. They see that it's okay. So I was just part of that Women Thrive Volume 4 book that just got published, right? And I spoke my story in there. It was amazing. It was such a great experience. But my story, it was the first time where I had really shared that kind of story, which, by the way, to just put your whole story in a chapter, that is a hard thing to do. I was like, can I write chapters? But anyway, it was really scary because I was sharing my story. But the amount of people who have reached out to me that I didn't even know that had bought the book. I posted on social media. There's people that that buy it. And then there's all the people that you have no idea that they bought it. And as people have reached out to me directly after they have read my chapter, I look at that like, okay, all these people have felt inspired to stand in their power, to get to find their voice again. Or maybe they haven't ever found it, right? And this is the first time they're finding it.
But you're an inspiration of that voice.
So I'm helping that, right? I'm helping them be able to find their voice. And I'm like, as hard as it was to write that chapter thinking, oh, what if my mom and dad are mad at me? What if my ex-husband is mad at me? Because they're in the chapter. What has happened was I've just looked at it like, Kate, the amount of people that have reached out to me, and I don't even know who else it's helped, right? That number is way greater than the number of people who might be mad at me. But the other thing is, by speaking up, there's nothing in that I said that's not true. Everything is true. They cannot look at it and be like, oh, she lied about this, or that wasn't the way. No, we all have our own perspectives, but what I said was factual. And so when it comes to us and our power, when you said it's time and the time is now, we have to speak up, and our voices matter, and all of us have different stories, and that doesn't make one better, one above another. But when we speak up, we even take that much more of our power back.
Yes. And we as women, societally, our rights are being challenged right now. I believe that we live in a world of universal laws, and that there is a pendulum that swings. And thousands of years ago, we went, it was somewhere around the Dark Ages, we went from a matriarchal society to a patriarchal society. And I believe we are at the pivotal extreme of the patriarchy right now. and that it is the rise of the feminine, the rise of the female embodiment of chaos and destruction. And when I use that, I think about childbirth. It is messy, it is ugly, it is painful, it changes our identity. There's so many things that happen through childbirth, but we are creating a new life and we are creating beauty. And in that dichotomy of those polar opposites is where creation comes from, because we are all conscious creators when we own that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going on in complacency, but we were born as conscious creators. And so I believe that this time and place that we are in, we are all being called to bring our voice to level up so that we can bring the power back to the individual, not just men, not just women, but to all of us.
I love that. Yes, we all have a place, and we all should be able to have a spot at the table, right? But we need to choose it. And I think with women, it's up to us to decide that we will choose it. We don't have to put the decision on anyone else. It's like, it is up to us. And then we have to claim it and just be like, yeah, this is what I'm worth.
Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is in people pleasing and in traditional roles of women. I hear so many times when a potential client wants to work with me and help them unlearn their crap, is I'll hear things like, but I have to put my family first. Or I can't spend this time and money and investment on myself. I've never done this for myself. Or I have to wait until this happens. Or all of these other things that are the stories and beliefs. My belief is that when we are not financially independent, when we are not independent in our health, when we're not independent in our relationships, when we're not independent, then we're dependent. And when we're dependent, we now are a burden to somebody else. So when we are self-sacrificing, when we are people-pleasing, when we're putting others before us, we're actually making somebody else responsible for us in our lives. And that's what I celebrate about what you're doing, is you're helping women unlearn the crap so that they can step into their entrepreneurial journey and become financially independent. What is that like when you're working with clients and they find that source within them?
My gosh, geez, there's literally nothing like it. And that's why I love it so much. Like seeing a woman like step into her power. I say that over and over, but it is kind of like she starts claiming her power. And then once she starts making money, it's like money's measurable, but it also gives you freedom. You know, there's so much that happens when you're like creating your own income, but she then doesn't have, there's nothing that you have to depend on. But the other thing that happens, money's measurable, but what happens to her, there's no words for it. One of my past clients, I just heard from her this week. Like I saw that she had a picture of her and this guy. And I was like, wait a minute, because she was divorced, single mom. She was scared to get remarried. And when she came to me to like help her with her business. And having worked with me, first of all, after she worked with me, all of her money blocks were gone. She had her own Airbnb that she invested in, and she was like managing 5 properties, and like her money was not a problem anymore, which was just so incredible to see. Right. I was like, yes. And she's like, Amy, like, I don't have money worries. I used to just struggle to even go out to dinner. And so that was amazing to see her just have that confidence and that power in herself and all those beliefs gone around money. Amazing. But last week when I saw that, I was like, hey, and she's like, oh my gosh, I have to meet with you again. She's like, I'm going to give you the best testimonial of your life, because since we worked together, like my life has continually just skyrocketed. And she's like, and now I just found the most amazing man. It's the most incredible love story. And I am like, hey, you can't say that's because of me. And she's like, no, you have no idea. By the stuff that we did together, everything changed. And so when you're like, what is it like? Like that is the stuff. Like, yeah, the money was awesome. But the fact that now she was so scared to have a relationship, and now she's in like a beautiful, amazing relationship. I still have not talked to her because it just happened last week, but we're going to get on a call next week. And I'm so excited. You know, this is like a past client. And then I have current clients now, obviously, but it's like that kind of work where this woman literally has completely changed her stars. Nothing makes me more excited than that kind of story. And they're all over the place. It's like, and I helped her. Yes. I gave her the tools. I helped her with strategy. Yeah. All that happened. But ultimately the reason why her life is the way it is because she chose it. She chose it. Yeah. She did work. She stepped into it. She kept the path. Yep. And yes, I helped her, but she kept going. So it's like, she's giving me credit. And I'm like, girl, like you got to give yourself the credit because you did this. And that's what women can do. Sometimes they just need to be guided because it's a new journey. It's a new road. Entrepreneurship is messy.
Absolutely.
It's up and down. But yeah,
absolutely.
So nothing fills my heart like more than hearing something like that. Like it's just the best thing you could ever hear in this industry.
I absolutely love that because money is a result. Relationships are a result. Our health, all of that is a result of what has happened. And so when we focus in on the results instead of the cause, when you fix the one cause, you changed everything for her. She changed everything for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I helped her. She did it. Like I was a guide, but she said yes to herself and she said yes to her dreams. And she's like, I cannot believe, like, you know, when we were ending work together, she's like, I cannot believe that I have like 5 properties I'm managing and my own Airbnb. This was a dream I had my whole life. And I was like, and look how short, like we coached together for maybe a year. And so it's like the things that can happen in a short period of time when you choose yourself are incredible. It's incredible. So yes, I love my work.
And that is the one thing that is so important that everybody here is our power lies in our decisions. Mm-hmm. We don't need to know the how, but we do need to make the decision of the what. And we need to have the why. The rest of it, the resources that we need, the mentors, the guides, everything will show up when we make the decision.
Mm-hmm. It is. And that's what's so cool about it is like, you don't have to know how it's going to happen. Just keep having the faith that it's being placed in front of you and keep moving down the road and it will unfold. All of it will come together.
Absolutely.
It's so cool. I love it.
So Amy, for full disclosure, this is the second time that we're recording this podcast because the first time we had technical issues. And I am so happy. I believe everything happens for a reason. Everything has divine timing. The reason we have no technical issues in today's conversation and the reason we needed to have this second conversation was because these important things that we did not talk about the first time are coming out today. And I want to thank you for your vulnerability and for your passion and for everything that you do when you level up and you're helping other women to level up. For those women who hear you and are responding to you, how do they reach you?
Yeah. The easiest way is Instagram, Coach Amy Sanders. So very American, AMYSANDRS. And then also my website is the same. So it's just coachamysanders.co. And if you go to my website, I do a lot of money clearing essentially like blocks around money and stuff so that you can create more wealth. And there is a PDF that comes right up as that you can grab as a free resource as well. So that's a good place to start if you're wanting to clear money blocks, whether you're starting a business or not. But it's the coolest thing you can do is just create that freedom for yourself. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I Absolutely love this conversation. I love your mission and your vision, and I just so appreciate everything you've done for the Unlearn the Crap community. Thank you, Amy.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.